Appears to be live. A few technical issues, so I have to work this out. So we'll see if I can get the room to open, because it doesn't seem to want to do that. Yes, this event thing isn't working quite right. So we get a new tab. New tab don't open. Here we go. All right, now this might work. Event thing isn't working quite right. All right, so I know it works. Okay. There we go. All right, so that's adequate now. Fixed. Mostly. Partially, anyway. And then we'll pop the chat out. And that should be it. So on with the show, so to speak. Just got to figure out where to put things. And maybe that works for me. So I thought I'd play some of the Sean Carroll video eventually, because it's stupid. Irritating. Where is it there? Okay, it's all the way over here. Maybe it's right in between two icons. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I gotta remember where things are. It's part of my job. All right, so quick, whatever. Ghost ship shall be arriving at the Bikini Atoll within the fortnight. Okay, I don't know what that means. Who cares? Goodbye. Said goodbye. I said goodbye. Oh, jeez. Probably have too many tabs open. Yeah, probably. Vendi Intercenti or something. Well, fuck that too. All right, glad to see you do a video a lot calmer. Well, I don't really want to hear that shit either. This guy is a moron. Nikola Tesla was brilliant. Yeah, well, it's just no. Why don't you prove it? What did he do for the last 30 years of his life? Really brilliant people just use something. He didn't do anything. Fed pigeons. And then he tried to sell the world on an idea of a death ray that he didn't have. So I don't know. That's not my definition of brilliant. He should get back on his meds. Well, just a waste of time. It's not a counter argument. Just let you in on a clue. Clueless. Yeah. If you have to resort to that kind of crap, you've lost the argument. I want you to be successful, but you have to stop responding to people who are disrespectful. Well, until something else shows up. We're sort of out of luck now. As soon as I get a volume of rational people, then I won't have to worry about the trolls, right? Because they'll be totally ignorable. Won't stick out anymore. They won't be the majority anymore. So anyway, I need to be respectful back. People insulting each other is not the norm in science. Well, what the norm in science is a bunch of pussy bullshit. So, they all pussyfoot around each other. Nobody calls a spade a spade. They all play some kind of bullshit game where nobody hurts anybody's feelings, and that's just crap. Science in the old days was pretty cutthroat. There probably needs to be more of that. So, I don't think you can make anything good without a little. It takes a little bit of work and heat. But anyway, just lay down the law and you won't respond to rude comments. Well, generally speaking, I do delete them and block people. I think that's sufficient for fair warning, blah, blah, blah. All right, me versus the rich, Tyler. They're not really on the subject, so we'll go over that. I guess smart people need idiots. So we already did that. So we're all done. Okay, so really nothing in the comments. Very thin. People aren't much use. Sad to say. I have to do all this myself. Or something like that. All right, so this is a Sean Carroll video from like 2013 talking about the discovery of the Higgs boson and blah, blah, blah. And so in this section, he's reading some crap from some sort of rappers, clown people, whatever. And they have some song where it says, fuck magnets, how do they work? And Sean Carroll's going to say stuff that's just plain stupid. So I just thought let's play it because it's stupid.
Look around, it's all astounding. Water, fire, air, and dirt. Frickin' magnets, how do they work? Frickin' was not the word, but you can Google it. You can look it up. Now, the boys received a certain amount of disapprobation from the scientific community by saying, magnets, how do they work?
Yes, disapprobation. Yeah, sure. I'm sure they were concerned about that. So in a sense, claiming that somehow that science has taken care of the problem and that they have a great explanation of how magnets work, and they have no fucking clue. And so this is just such bullshit. I mean, they have a clue about effects. Again, so what? Measuring effects is nothing. Explaining what causes the effect, that's the something their guys are talking about. That's what the clowns were clowning about. It's the fact that you don't have a definition of how the fuck it happens.
We know how magnets work.
Okay, see, this is more the fake claims by these guys all the time. Their quantum mechanics has predicted everything. They've done this, it's done that. Everything's wonderful. Everything works great. Just so overdone, way beyond anything real. Just their little fantasies. We've solved magnets. No, you haven't even come close. They have nothing. You'll find no physicist explaining how magnets work. It's never done by a physicist, but they have absolutely no clue how they work.
It was demonstrated right here where I'm saying.
Right, again, the effects were demonstrated. Yes, we all, the clown guys see magnets stick to the refrigerator. They don't have a problem understanding the effect. They want to know how it happens, what causes it. And you have no clue, Sean, and you're just pretending your science has done it when it hasn't done anything. And it will never do anything because you have a wrong foundation. You're always going to be looking up the wrong tree because you're in the wrong forest of gingerbread men and woo-woo.
Standing many years ago. So we do have a working scientific understanding.
Okay, you don't have a working model. So again, a scientific understanding. They have no scientific understanding, just a complete lie. I mean, they just... Feynman, had to explain how I can't explain it to you because there's nothing to compare it to. So yeah, I can't give you anything. I can't even explain the explanation. Nothing. You have nothing, Sean. You're just pretending. You're just pretensive. You're just pretending your physics has got some kind of rational steam engine that you've built, and it's completely irrational. It makes noise. It doesn't make motion. Your model sucks.
Of the esoteric phenomenon known as...
Oh, I should have the volume louder. Sorry. I forgot. I have to have the volume like that. I want to increase the volume. Thank you. Sorry about that, people. Just one of the little details I forget sometimes. A lot of issues to keep cognizant of.
The magnet. But I nevertheless want to give them a little bit of credit, because even though we understand it, even though we have equations we can attach to this idea.
So again, yes, you have really brutal equations that aren't nuanced at all in understanding anything to do with the differences between the two poles of the magnet and those kind of functions. So it has nothing to do with the dynamic that creates the effect. All they have is mathematics that diagrams effects. No math diagramming cause.
It is still astounding. Think about a magnet. A magnet is something you can attach to a piece of metal, right? It'll stick to it, a refrigerator or so forth. You can stick lots of things to lots of other things. You can stick pieces of tape or gum or whatever. But when you stick a piece of tape to the refrigerator, the tape has to touch the refrigerator in order to stick. The gum has to touch the refrigerator in order to stick. A little...
Right. And so he's basically going to explain how their physics has got these fake fields that are the magical glue. So the tape has big blob of glue on it. Really long strands of glue called their little Higgsy field or whatever. Their field of whatever. The magnetic field. There's no field.
insect or gecko walking up the wall needs to touch the thing in order to stick to it. A magnet, if you hold it close to a piece of metal, you can feel it pulling before it touches. The magnet
So again, it's this idea that they don't even consider what you're feeling as being an illusion, in the sense that you're fooled, because what's really happening is the magnet's being pushed. And you're holding it. The pushing is going right through your hand as you're holding it, but it's actually the magnet's being pushed into the metal. The metal is being pushed towards the magnet. Never even occurred to them to get the right answer.
reaches across empty space and exerts a force.
Right. So this idea, this is what they've been struggling with, and they haven't advanced this theory one little tiny bit. You know, creating a field still doesn't explain how does the field get energized? How does the ether get gluey? When the magnet's there, all of a sudden the ether's gluey. The magnet's not there, the ether isn't sticky. How come? None of that'll be explained.
The refrigerator exerts a force back, according to Sir Isaac Newton, that pulls the two things together. They don't need to touch each other. How is that possible?
It's possible if you understand that one's being pushed instead of pulled. Then you understand, oh, it's being pushed. It's so obvious.
How does the magnet know that there is a refrigerator nearby?
It doesn't have a choice. It doesn't get to know. It's being pushed. It's being forced by a force. Not a field, a force.
Be attracted to. So the answer, well, I'll tell you the answer, but first I'll tell you that it's not just these modern day philosophers who are puzzled by this. There's an older natural philosopher who was puzzled by this.
So again, this is, he claims they have the answer. They don't have an answer. And he's pointing out how, this is a question that's been around a long time. You think physics would have gotten around to answering important questions like this. I mean, the ones right in our noses, right in front of our face. They don't answer these questions. Let's see. Will you consider yourself a real-life Good Will Hunting? I don't even remember the movie, so sorry. Can't say. Doesn't really matter. It's really not about me. It's about whether the theory is right or wrong. But again, do as they all do. Let the subject elude you.
We've already given him a name. Sir Isaac Newton was very puzzled by this phenomenon, which is known as action at a distance. Newton was interested in gravity, not magnetism, but it's the same thing. The Earth exerts a force on the moon or satellites orbiting the Earth. They're not touching each other. The Earth seems to push out across empty space to it.
So again, now he says push out. So when the Earth is moving, it's pushing out, but somebody can't figure out that something might be pushing in the sense of, again, a force pushing the Earth in rather than anything pulling. So again, just, an inability to even they're not even in the right forest. Again, they're looking up the wrong dress, however you want to put it.
Exert this force on things in its vicinity. Newton said that you can understand gravity throughout the universe in terms of an inverse square law.
Right. Okay. Now this is where he should, if he knew physics, this is the key point where, your model has to account for the existence of the law. And it's, I don't know how much Newton went over this, but he must have, because he did sign on to the particle theory for a while. And the particle theory is just so great at making it kind of obvious why there's an inverse square law. It's because the force is leaving in two dimensions. It's spreading in both directions. So it's like you having 10 bullets and you fire them, at precise angles, evenly spaced in a sphere, half sphere. You could sort of understand that as you go half the distance away, you're now creating 4 times as much space for the bullet to go through, and you're going to be just a small bit inside of that space. And so your percentage of you, the space you occupy, becomes a smaller and smaller and smaller piece of the arc of exposure because of the divergence going in 2 dimensions. So that's all you have to do. That's what the inverse square law is a consequence of. Light spreading, diverging. So it's like light bulbs. Again, it's like everything, okay, that is related to the inverse square law. It just has to do with the percentage of the space something occupies, and the less amount of the space that is occupied by my hand at this distance versus this distance. And that's explained by a radial force, a force radiating from something in all directions. So it should have been understood as a force. And then the question would be, gravity is a negative force. That is, somehow the radiation of gravity is a low pressure, is somehow less pressure. And then you have the obvious conclusion, there must be more pressure on the other side. And then you're done. It's really not a hard couple of steps to traverse to get the right answer versus this mush they have as a wrong answer. And then to apply it to magnetism, you just create polarization, two kinds of force, and you've explained charge and magnetism, and you're done.
The force of gravity becomes weaker and weaker as you move away, as the distance between the two objects square, okay? So the way he said that, he's just talking about as if things just get smaller as they get further away. And it's not just things getting smaller as they get further away. They're getting smaller in 2 dimensions. And that's why it's the inverse square law. That's why there's twice as much of an effect, is because it's spreading both ways. Very worried. In fact, he said that this phenomenon of action at a distance made no sense, even though it was part of his theory. To Newton, the action at a distance aspect of his extremely successful theory of gravitation was much like contemporary physicists think about quantum mechanics.
So again, successful in what sense? I mean, it's successful in, again, defining or describing the effect. It has very little use as a definition of causes again. So again, just more overstatement about what you're really trying to do when you're making a model is, the model is supposed to model causes and effects, not just effects.
An incredibly successful phenomenology, a set of rules.
Yes, it's incredibly successful again. And they're just the simple observations that certain phenomena take place when you restrict photons, for example, that don't have a certain effect in terms of the probability of them being diverged or deflected in a direction. Not a hugely complex statement in the first place that you're predicting, not something incredibly, and certainly it doesn't do anything to say, oh, because you understand the fact that that photons don't go in straight lines when you put them through small apertures, that somehow now you understand quantum mechanics. Well, you don't, because the explanation can be a variety of explanations of cause, and you've considered none of them, except your wacky ones, of course.
The data to wonderful precision, and yet...
So again, more wonderful precision, but it really doesn't. As I pointed out, the math for the double slit experiment doesn't even have the slit width in it, and it doesn't create the graduated pattern that it's supposed to create in photons. It doesn't match the mathematical prediction at all.
Deep down in our bones, we think it makes no sense. We can't.
So again, they're conceding they don't have a model. It's so incomplete. They can't even, they got an alligator, like a whatever they call a crocoduck. They got a silly conception of reality. The head doesn't match the feet and the arms. It's a monstrosity. Yet they keep selling it as it works in some vague way where, so what? You've realized there's a certain effect that's pretty reliable, but it doesn't work in any other way besides you just recognizing that, oh yes, whenever a photon goes next to a surface, we have to recognize that it might be affected. That's hardly calling it, incredibly successful theory.
Quite make sense of it. And Newton's problem with action at a distance was actually solved by another philosopher slash scientist, Pierre-Simon.
Yeah, which is absolute nonsense. Solved no way whatsoever. So this is all just a pile of crap because this is an ether theory. It doesn't solve anything.
Laplace. Laplace came up with a new theory of gravity. It turns out it wasn't really a new theory of gravity. It was the same theory as Newton's. No one talks about Laplace's theory of gravity. It's a way of rewriting Newtonian gravity, but it's a way that gets rid of the action at a distance. What Laplace says is that instead of just thinking about random forces between objects very, very far away, imagine there is a field filling the universe. And what that means mathematically is just that at every point in space, there's a number. The value of the field, just like the temperature of the air in this room. At every point, there's a value, the temperature at that point of the air.
Right. And so then how does this field get told by the material thing what the temperature should be at all these locations? So again, there'll be no explanation of any kind of cause and effect. So again, it's still just action at whatever. No distance, a distance, it doesn't matter. You're still creating the illusion of a mechanism that somehow is controlling something, hundreds of meters away, thousands of meters, light years away, with some magical force that you don't explain. No material force involved. All right. This is some idiot, no doubt. Did you know Draft Science is a co-op by the Chinese government? Yes, I'll just quit wasting time with that guy quickly enough. I mean, I don't even understand these people. I don't even know why they write this stuff. It's totally uninteresting lies, of no function. Whose goat can they possibly get with a joke that long and stupid? No. Well, 81%. That's very nice. Thank you. Testing.